Hello, babies! Welcome back to the channel and another video about navigating the world as a late diagnosed autistic person who also has ADHD and didn't know it until real recently because I always thought I'd grow out of it. If you appreciate semi-relatable neurodivergent content, go ahead and check out the other videos on my channel. I always put neurodivergence somewhere in the title or the description of the video, so you'd be able to find it. That being said, let's get to it. Today I want to talk about the fact that I don't have friends. People think I'm exaggerating when I say this, but two things. It's true, and it doesn't make me feel bad to say that it's true, because the few people that I do consider my genuine friends in real life are the best friends that I could ever ask for. Well, I really hope that that didn't screw up the recording too bad, because I don't really want to go back and re-record the beginning. Recording is really hard for my executive functioning because there's so much that goes into like preparing for it. But anyway, continuing. I want to talk about my best friend because there is a lot of preconceived ideas and wrong preconceived ideas about platonic relationships, you know, in 2022. Like, people still don't understand or recognize the importance of and the just the healing nature of allowing ourselves to experience deeper platonic relationships and not being afraid to go there with our friends just because they're just friends, you know, if that makes sense. Because my best friend is somebody that I've shared, you know, intimate moments with. And I know that when I say that there are going to be people who think, ooh, he physical. And I'm like, no. No, I'm talking about emotional vulnerability. Okay, we have been friends for 15 years. When you are friends with somebody for that long, you have to, and you know, have gone through the kinds of things that we've been through, you've got to be vulnerable to make a friendship last that long. And you know, to me, that's more important than the kind of intimacy everybody assumes when you say the word intimacy. So, story time. We met, like I said, 15 years ago in December. But 15 years ago, through a mutual friend who, ironically, I don't think either one of us are really still close with this mutual either. But we met at a Motion City soundtrack concert, and let me tell you, I knew that I was going to be in trouble the second I saw him standing there, looking all cute in his leather jacket with hot chocolate to help keep us warm in the December cold while we waited for the venue to open. And I gotta tell you, the only thing that has changed about the way that I feel in all this time is just the fact that I had no idea that it was even possible to love somebody at this level. You know, when we first met, I didn't know who I was. I had no idea. I thought I knew who I was, and I really, truly did not. So, you know, I didn't really, and as I've discovered these things, I'm sorry, it's very hard to put language to these feelings just because, the language that we currently have is co-opted by people who feel romantic love exclusively and don't understand feeling this level of platonic love. Um, which brings me to my point that my romantic attraction falls somewhere on the aromantic spectrum. And even before I knew why, I always cared more about my friends or wanted to be friends with the people I was dating. Um, I always, I always felt that way. I always put greater emphasis on friendship than I did on relationships. And I always liked the idea of being best friends with the person you were dating. Um, so the fact of the matter is, even though people don't really understand these feelings, I don't need any other relationships as long as I have him. I mean, he's been there through everything, through all the trauma that shaped my adult life and who I've become. And he's still here. He's still here. So many people have abandoned me for so much less than what he's been through with me. He's seen me at my lowest points. I've treated him a little bit like trash sometimes, and he's still here. I mean, he's the only reason that I keep going with my podcast. I lost 90% of my friends over the course of the pandemic in 2020. And even though he would probably, he's so low key about it, but I know he's my biggest cheerleader no matter what project I'm working on. Or invested in at any given moment. I didn't have to ask twice for him to turn on notifications for my YouTube channel. He follows my podcast, he watches my art, he watches all my TikToks, and even struggles and, asks, if I sit there and explain the trends to him, he'll try to understand, and I love him for it. Um, I wasn't going to script this episode, but one of my things as a vlogger has been accepting that I need a little bit of help so that I'm not sitting there like with a blank stare, not remembering what to say. And it's funny because I went through this when I was studying for my bat mitzvah as well, because my teacher, my bat mitzvah teacher, did not want me to just read off of the sheet. She wanted me to memorize it from bullet points, and nope, even then, at 13, I knew enough to say, no, my brain does not work that way. So, being able to accept that now as an adult, this is how I have to run my YouTube channel in order to stay on topic. What a wild ride. But anyway, continuing, being autistic and, all the trauma that I have, CPTSD from adoption trauma, it is really hard for me to trust when somebody is, trying in their own way. Despite my absolutely inexcusable inability to see how much he's grown for me in the last decade and a half, he's still here. I am sometimes, most of the time, an ungrateful jerk, and he is still here despite that. I don't know, this is probably pretty relatable, but it's very hard as an autistic person to find people who will tolerate our unmasked selves, and not just tolerate, but like really appreciate, you know, that it's important that we have the ability to be unmasked. Um, and having been undiagnosed for so long, like being able to unmask is important to me, and having somebody that recognizes that I can't always give him a break when he needs it, it'd be easy to run away. It'd be easy to be like, nope, this friendship isn't worth it. But he consciously makes the decision that the fun that we have together is worth more than that, that stupid crap is, why pass up that stuff just because my brain doesn't work in a way that's necessarily super comfortable for either of us, and I wish it were easier for me to be grateful for having a friend like that, because I know that not a lot of autistic people do have friends like that, even the ones who have more friends than I do. And that's part of the reason why I want to emphasize quality over quantity in this case, because, for an unmasked autistic person, it doesn't matter if we have 1,000 friends if they're not the right kind of friend. It's funny, and every time I talk about how long we've been friends, people will ask me, what is your favorite memory? What is a time where you really felt the most connected to him as a friend? And there's just so many to pick from. It's kind of unreal, honestly. We just have so much fun every time we hang out, even if we're just hanging out and chilling and doing stupid shit, like all the concerts we've been to. We met at a Motion City Soundtrack concert. We went to Motion City Soundtrack when I was pregnant. That was a trip. We went to see Train and Goo Goo Dolls when they were on tour together. We went to see Say Anything for my birthday the year we met, which was probably the best night I've ever had in my entire life, which is interesting because I was completely sober. So let that be a lesson. I've got to remember to turn my phone off when I record, or at least put it somewhere where it's not going to vibrate. My poor microphone. But I mean, just all of these things that we've done together that are just like, that make him stand out above anybody else I've ever been friends with. The most recent example, last Sunday, he came down and took me to see the newest Scream movie because he knows that Wes Craven is my favorite director. Scream is one of my favorite franchises, and he wanted to experience the joy with me. Like, he could take or leave the franchise himself, but sharing it with me was important to him. So he went out of his way, and he treated me. So, like, yeah. And, and that's another thing that is super, I think, unique about and special about our relationship, is that we began during the pandemic a monthly tradition of watching horror movies. And honestly, he's the one who's responsible for fanning the flames of that hyperfixation back into, the forest fire that is my current obsession with horror-related entertainment media. I mean, it's my favorite thing to talk about and dissect. And it's all because I know he will sit down and, listen to me pick it apart until I want to scream, just like I did in the car after we saw the 5th Scream. I mean, finding somebody like that who is more than willing to indulge my obsessions and to share the madness, like he doesn't just indulge, he shares in it too, is something that, is really rare for autistic people. And, you know, yeah, I'm super, can't say enough how lucky I am to have a friend like that. Um, and I remember the day that I decided that this friendship was, that I wanted to put the majority of my emotional energy into this person. Um, this is just one of the many ways the early days of the pandemic changed everything. Um, Monet had an art exhibit at the art museum, and the two of us went with my mom and my daughter. Um, I really wanted to see what it would be like to enjoy an art exhibit from the perspective of somebody who was a self-taught artist trying to, maybe make a career out of it. And so we went to see the exhibit. It was the two of us and my mom and my daughter. And it was having him there for that experience, knowing that he knew what it meant to me. And not only that he knew what it meant to me, but that he specifically wanted to share what it meant to me directly. How am I supposed to ever feel like anybody else can measure up to that? The fact of the matter is they can't. Especially when you factor in that you also have to be somebody who's willing to indulge my obsession with BTS, which is a whole different level of the odds of that happening. No. And it's interesting because I generally, when I hear about people who talk about friendship and having friends and being a good friend, I generally feel like I can't contribute to the conversation because I've never been particularly popular. Like, people say they like me, which is like, yay, but like, when it comes to like feeling like close to people, I always felt like I just never really had anything important to add to that because I don't really let myself get close to people that way anymore, especially recently. But the thing is, I do feel like I'm not missing out just because I only have one friend instead of a dozen. If anything, the experiences that he and I have are more special because it is just me and him, and we don't have to share. It's just me and him in our own little world that's completely disaffected by any of the drama or the turmoil going on in the world, and it's just us and whatever fun thing we happen to be doing in the moment. And I'm willing to put money on that being a huge part of why he likes being my friend, because it's really easy to just get swept away in the excitement when I'm hyper fixated on something or excited about a project I'm working on. I'm really good when it comes to facilitating escapism. I guess you could say, because I get really excited, and it's hard. It's just infectious. I've been told that by a lot of people, so I wouldn't be surprised if he feels that way too. But yeah, so I've just been, obviously, if you listen to the last episode of the podcast, which if you haven't, you should, because it kind of dovetails on this. It's part of the reason why I don't really care about being popular either. Because I have everything I need. I don't need all the headaches that come with, having a social media following when I have everything I need in one person. And, and I don't really feel like that's something that I should feel ashamed for or like embarrassed about. And I don't think autistic people in general should feel ashamed about having really thick walls and strict boundaries that are really hard for people to manage, because it makes the people who are willing to do the work to manage it for you, it makes them that much more special. So I would encourage, if you are an autistic person who does have someone like this in your life, maybe there's something we can do just to, appreciate people like that in general, like have a day or a symbol, like something that really shows, hey, I really appreciate that you are an accomplice to me as an autistic person, and this is my way of showing that I understand and I see you and I appreciate the effort it takes. Something, because I do appreciate it. I know I make a lot of posts on social media that I am not here for neurotypical, holistic nonsense. And on the whole, I am not. But because I have a friend who is an holistic, I'm not sure he's neurotypical. He says he is, but I'm not sure he is. But because my friend is, this type of person, I do want to make an effort to say, hey, yeah, I appreciate you guys. I see you guys. And you have more than earned the title of ally or accomplice or whatever, whatever word makes you feel comfortable. The next video will hopefully be, I'm going to try to manage video and audio recording at the same time. This, I had to get it done really quickly because my mom is supposed to be calling me soon here to go shopping for boots. Which the next vlog episode is going to be about going back to the service industry, even though I swore I wasn't going to. The next episode of Oh, the Horror is going to be, I've done some really fascinating research about metafiction and why it's so interesting to people, and why it's such a good fit for the horror genre. So I'm very excited to share that. And then the next podcast video is going to be the video audio for the podcast as well. I finally got to see Scream 5. So we will be... That was a very large piece of dust that fell off my ceiling right onto my keyboard. So, I finally got to see Scream 5, so that's going to be coming. I really want to make sure that I do some in-depth work on that one as well, because it is going to be a joint podcast and YouTube collab, if you can call it a collab if it's just me posting both places. But anyway, thanks for tuning in for this vlog and listening to me blabber on about neurodivergence and best friends. I appreciate y'all joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.